While I was on a business trip, Mom called tears, "Your grandpa's badly hurt, we need money for treatment." I gave her my safe code, cancelled my meetings and raced home. Grandpa was perfectly fine, but my $5 million was gone. I couldn't stop laughing because the safe code I gave her was, "I'm Hadley and I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, in a family that looked like it stepped out of a glossy magazine." On the outside we had it all, big house, fancy cars and a chain of boutique hotels that made everyone think we were living the American dream. But inside it was a different story. My parents always had a favorite, and it wasn't me. My younger brother, Lucas, got everything handed to him, private schools, shiny Sioux versus even a penthouse apartment, when he barely worked a day in his life. Me, I was the one told to figure it out, always that I fought for every scrap. I worked 2 jobs through college, graduated with honors in finance and clawed my way into a solid career as a financial planner. I thought if I proved myself they'd see me. But no matter how many late nights I pulled or how many deals I closed, I was invisible to them. The only person who ever really saw me was my grandfather. He was the one who built our family's wealth. A retired investment banker who made smart real estate moves. Long before I was born he set up a trust fund, $5 million meant to be split between me and Lucas. When we came of age, he was fair, kind and the only one who didn't play favorites. One morning everything changed. I was packing for a big business trip to Chicago, a chance to pitch to a major client that could have boosted my career. My phone rang and it was my mom. Her voice was shaky, like she'd been crying. "Hadley, honey, it's your grandfather," she said, barely holding it together. "He's had a bad fall. We need to hear." My heart dropped. My grandfather meant the world to me, he been my rock, the one who cheered me on when no one else did. Without a second thought, I cancelled my flight, rescheduled my meetings and rushed to his house in Buckhead, my stomach in knots. When I walked through his door, I froze. There he was sitting in his favorite leather armchair reading a newspaper, looking as healthy as ever, no bruises, no bandages, just a cup of coffee in his hand. He looked up confused. "Hadley, what are you doing here?" he asked, setting the paper down. I blinked, trying to process. "Mom called. She said, you fell, that you were hurt bad." His face darkened and he leaned forward rubbing his temples. "She told you that?" he said, his voice low. My chest tightened. Something was really wrong, I staggered. "What's going on?" He sighed heavy, like he was carrying a weight he'd held for years. "She asked me to lie. Hadley said it would keep things peaceful if you stay behind." I told her, "No, I wouldn't do that to you." My knees felt weak. My own mom had made up a story about my grandfather's health just to keep me from what I sank into the couch, my mind racing. She said it was a family vacation. I whispered, "The Bahamas." "I thought we were all going." His eyes softened, sad and angry at once. "They never meant to take you, sweetheart." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, hands trembling, and opened Instagram. There was a photo of my entire family on a white sand beach, all smiles, holding cocktails, my parents, Lucas, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone but me. Lucas had posted it. His caption, "Smug. Nothing beats family time in paradise." My breath caught in my throat. I was supposed to be there laughing with them, part of the picture. Instead they'd lied. Used my grandfather's name to trick me. The betrayal cut deep like a blade twisting in my chest. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white, fighting back tears. They thought I'd just take it, like always, but this time they were wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on my grandfather's couch, the glow of my phone lighting up the dark living room. As I scrolled through those Bahamas photos again, each one hurt more than the last, my mom's arm around Lucas, my dad raising a glass, everyone laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. They planned this behind my back, used my grandfather's name to keep me away and left me thinking I was saving him while they parted. My hands shook as I zoomed in on Lucas's smug grin. How could they do this? My grandfather sat beside me, his face etched with worry. "Hadley," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "There's something you need to know." My heart pounded as he reached into his desk and pulled out a thick folder, handing it to me. "This is everything I've been tracking," he said. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the cover. Whatever was inside, I knew it would change everything. I opened it and my world tilted. Bank statements, trust fund reports, legal documents, pages and pages of proof that my parents had been stealing from me for years. "They were supposed to split the trust fund between you and Lucas," he said, his voice tight. "They took your share, bit by bit. I scanned the papers, my eyes catching on transactions, $1.50000 for Lucas private school, $100,000 for a sports car, more for his failed startup ideas. My money, the trust fund was worth $5 million, meant for both of us. They had funneled nearly all of it to him. I felt like I couldn't breathe. All those years I'd worked late nights, saved every penny while they handed Lucas my future like it was nothing. There's more, my grandfather said, his voice dropping. They're planning to give the hotel chain to Lucas. Your dad's finalizing the paperwork. Now I stared at him, my mind reeling. The Harris Hotels, our family's pride, the business I dreamed of helping run one day, was supposed to be shared. They're cutting me out completely. I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, his jaw tight. I gave your dad control years ago, thinking he'd do right by you both. I was wrong. The room spun. I thought of every time I'd stayed late at work, every client I'd won, every sacrifice I'd made to prove I was worthy of this family. They've been planning to erase me all along. My grandfather's hand found mine, grounding me. You don't have to let this happen. Hadley, he said, you're stronger than they think. A spark ignited in my chest, not just anger, but something sharper, colder, determination. They thought I'd stay quiet, like I always had, but I was done. Being their doormat, I called my aunt, Julia, the one family member who'd always had my back. She walked away from the family business years ago, fed up with my parents. Shady dealings corporate attorney with a sharp mind and sharper tongue, she was the kind of person who didn't take nonsense. When she arrived she took one look at the folder and nodded. This is fraud, Hadley, she said, flipping through the papers, they've been siphoning your inheritance. If they're moving money to offshore accounts, they're planning to disappear, probably to the Caribbean. My blood ran cold. They weren't just stealing, they were planning to vanish with what was left. We can stop them, Julia said, her eyes fierce, but we need to act fast. I nodded, my mind racing. For years I'd swallowed my pain, hoping my parents would see me as their daughter, not just the one they could ignore. Now I saw them for who they were, people who would rather destroy me than share what was rightfully mine. What's our first move? I asked. Julia leaned forward, a glint in her eye. We hit them where it hurts their reputation. I felt a smile tug at my lips. My parents lived for their perfect image. If we tore that down, they'd have nowhere to hide. The next morning I sat with Aunt Julia and my grandfather, my phone in hand, ready to light a match. Under my parents' perfect facade they built their lives on looking flawless, successful hoteliers, doting parents, pillars of Atlantis elite. But it was all a lie and I was done letting them hide behind it. I opened Instagram, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Lucas, his latest post, stared back at me, him on a yacht, drink in hand. The caption, living the dream with family. My stomach twisted. That dream was built on my stolen future. I typed, my hand steady, despite the anger burning in my chest. Funny how my parents lied about my grandfather's health to keep me from our family vacation. Funnier still how they took my $5 million trust fund and the Harris Hotels meant for me and Lucas and gave it all to him. They thought I'd never find out. I hit post and held my breath. Within minutes, the notifications exploded. Likes, comments, shares, friends, distant cousins, even my parents, business partners were stunned, flooding the post with questions. Is this true? What's going on with Harris Hotels? Truth was out. It was spreading like wildfire. My phone rang almost immediately. Lucas' name flashed on the screen, Hadley, with the hell. He hissed, his voice low, like he was hiding. Take that post down. You're making Mom and Dad look awful. I let the silence stretch, letting him squirm. Awful. I said, my voice calm but sharp. They lied to me, Lucas. They stole my money, my future. You went along with it, he sputtered. You don't get it, it's complicated. No, I shot back. It's simple. You took what was mine. Next was my mom. Her voice was ice cold. Hadley, delete that post. You're embarrassing us. I laughed, bitter and raw, embarrassing. You faked grandfather's injury, gave Lucas my inheritance and planned to hand him the business. You embarrassed herself. She huffed. We did what was best for the family. Lucas was ready for that money, not you. Her words stung, but I was done letting them hurt me. You're wrong, I said, and you'll see how wrong soon enough. By evening, the fallout was unstoppable. Reporters called sniffing around Harris Hotels' finances. Employees, long silenced, started sharing stories of unpaid wages and sketchy deals. My grandfather made calls to old business contacts and investors began pulling back. Spooked by the scandal, Julie and I filed legal papers to freeze the hotel chain's transfer to Lucas. The paperwork wasn't finalized but it was close, too close. If we could prove fraud we could stop it. Cold that night my grandfather handed me one last document. His eyes steady. This is the original contract I signed with your dad. He said. It gave him control of Harris Hotels. There's a clause. Nobody noticed. I read it, my heart racing. It stated that if dishonesty or misconduct was proven, control could be revoked. This was our ace, the key to dismantling their plan. I looked up a fire in my chest. We've got them, I said. Julia nodded, smile fierce, let's finish this. The next morning I walked into the Harris Hotel's downtown office, my grandfather's contract tucked under my arm. My heart pounded. My steps were steady. For years I'd felt like an outsider in my own family, but today I was taking back what was mine. I pushed open the door to my dad's corner office. He and my mom were there frantically shoving papers into a shredder. They froze when they saw me. My dad's face turned crimson. You don't belong here, Hadley. He snapped. I held up the contract, my voice calm, actually I do. His eyes narrowed but I saw a flicker of fear. I stepped forward. You missed something in this contract, Dad, the clause that says if you're caught lying or stealing you lose everything. He snatched the paper, scanning it, his jaw tightening with every line. My mom gripped the desk, her face pale. Hadley, let's talk about this. She said, her voice shaky. Talk. I said, raising an eyebrow. Where is the talking? When you gave Lucas my trust fund, when you planned to hand in the business, Lucas burst in red-faced and panting. You're destroying everything, Hadley, why can't you just let it go? I turned to him, my voice steady, let it go. You lived off my money, Lucas. You took my future and you didn't even blink. He threw up his hands. You're just bitter. I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his bitter. No, I'm done letting you all walk over me. The office door swung open again. 2 federal agents stepped in, followed by Aunt Julia and my grandfather, my dad's face drained of color. What is this? He shouted. One agent, a tall woman in a sharp suit, spoke up. Mr. Harris, we have evidence of financial fraud and offshore transfers. You and your wife are under arrest. My mom gasped, clutching my dad's arm. Do something, she hissed. But he was frozen, the contract still in his hand. I pulled out another folder, bank records, trust fund statements, proof of every dollar they'd stolen. This, I said, shows you took $5 million. That was mine. My dad's eyes burned with rage. You think you've won, he spat. I met his gaze unflinching. I'm not trying to win, I'm taking back what's mine. Lucas stared at me, his mouth open, finally realizing the game was over. As the agents cuffed my parents, I felt a weight lift for the first time. I wasn't the invisible daughter, I was the one in control. The weeks that followed were a blur. They changed everything. The court case was swift and Julia presented the evidence like a master, laying out every lie, every stolen dollar. The judge ruled the hotel chain transferred to Lucas was fraudulent, null and void. My parents' attempt to rewrite the family legacy collapsed and the court did something I never expected, it awarded me full ownership of Harris Hotels, the business I had been excluded from. The one they tried to steal was mine. My parents faced prison for financial fraud. Lucas, without their money or influence, was left scrambling. He sent me a text, one half-hearted apology, trying to worm his way back. I didn't respond. Some betrayals cut too deep. I was done, carrying the weight of his entitlement. My grandfather pushed for the trust fund's recovery, but most of the $5 million was gone, funneled into Lucas's life or hidden offshore. Still, the hotels were worth more, not just in money but in what they represented, a chance to build something honest. Taking over wasn't easy. My dad had left a mess, shady deals, unpaid staff and a toxic culture. I walked into Harris Hotel's headquarters one morning, not as the overlooked daughter, but as the owner. Employees who had once avoided my gaze now met it with cautious hope. I got to work, paying back wages, setting up a scholarship fund for workers' kids and opening the books for transparency. Slowly, trust grew. The hotel started to feel like a place where people wanted to work, not just had to. One evening I sat with my grandfather on the rooftop of our flagship hotel, the Atlanta skyline sparkling below. He sipped his coffee, a quiet smile on his face. He said, "I always knew you had it in you." I tilted my head. "What's that?" He leaned back, his eyes warmed the strength to turn their lies into your truth. I laughed softly, the weight of years of doubt lifting. He was right, they tried to break me, to erase me, but all they did was show me what I was capable of. I wasn't just surviving their betrayal, I was thriving. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you. You've walked with me through the hurt, the fight, and the moment I took back my life. If this hit you, if it made you feel the sting of betrayal or the fire of fighting, back that subscribe button and join us. Every story we share is about facing the truth, claiming what's yours and building something better. Keep carving your own path. I'll see you at the top.